What's going on, everybody? Welcome into a trade reaction. It has happened. Jerami Grant is a Portland Trailblazer, and Joe Cronin did not get fleeced. Joe Cronin won a trade. Great job to Joe Cronin. Great job to Eric, who's not going to be with us, but Eric called this trade going down over a month ago at this point. If you go to our second channel, Blazers Uprise Live, yes, subscribe to that, quick plug. Eric had a stream where he went in on Damian Lillard was telling people that Jerami Grant to Portland was pretty much done. Damian Lillard was working out with Jerami Grant, and Jerami Grant wanted to come to Portland, wanted to play with Damian Lillard, and we talked about after that how Cronin would have a bunch of leverage, and it didn't make sense to give up more than a 2025 Milwaukee first and a couple smaller assets. That's exactly what Cronin gave up. Portland lost the Pelicans pick, and me and Eric ranted about that. We were very upset about that. But Joe Cronin turns the asset he got instead, which is a 2025 Milwaukee first, as well as a couple future seconds, and then trading down from 36 to 46 in the draft to get Jerami Grant. What's funny is I just started taking a nap. I've been grinding out draft graphics. We will have our draft stream tomorrow, and I still get to be excited about that because we still have 7. We still have a mid-second round pick, 46 instead of 36, and we have 57. We still have 3 picks in tomorrow's draft. I still get to be excited about that. All the work that I've been putting in graphically for that. I'm not sitting here bummed out about losing the 7th overall pick. So still hyped for the draft tomorrow. I've been grinding those graphics. I had just fallen asleep to take a nap when this trade happened. So Eric called me. Appreciate Eric for calling me. And we get to talk about Jerami Grant, man. So Jerami Grant had been rumored to Portland for quite a while now. Apparently wanted to play in Portland. A big part of this is he's going to be a free agent next season, and a team wasn't going to trade for him if he didn't want to resign there, because then he would just be a 1-year rental. Him actually wanting to come to Portland is probably what helped make this trade happen for Portland. So you have I don't know if I'd call him a big name player, but you have a pretty well-known guy choosing to come to Portland, which is pretty dang cool. I think he was born in Portland and grew up for a bit in Portland, if I recall correctly. I don't exactly remember, chat. You can correct me if I'm wrong. So he does have some roots here. And he's cool with Dame. So the Dame connection with a player finally works out in a way where you have Jerami Grant wanting to come to Portland. So let me know what your thoughts are in the chat. I'm going to post a chat poll and have you guys grade this trade on Portland's end. On Detroit's end, if you have a player that's only has 1 year left on his contract and he wants to go to a specific destination, he does have some leverage over you, so Detroit probably got what they could get. So Detroit was in the best spot. They do get a first, and they do get a couple of seconds, so that's probably what Jerami Grant's value was. Grade this trade for Portland. Eric might hop on his work laptop later. Apparently it's really bad. You can let me know. If you really want Eric on his crappy laptop, let him know. Maybe we can get him on here, man. But Eric is a little busy at the moment. Anyway, so here's the deal with Jerami Grant. And here's the deal with Portland's situation. I've said it all along. They need to get better defensively, and they need to address their forward spots. Jerami Grant helps that a bit, but not in the way that everybody thinks. I don't think he's like a lockdown on-ball defensive player. He's more of an off-ball team defender, rim protector. He has some good moments on the ball, but a lot of his value defensively comes when he's not the primary defender. And Portland needs maybe another primary defender, and I was worried that Portland was going to spend all their assets acquiring Jerami Grant without having anything left over to try and address their lack of on-ball point of attack defenders. Now, Portland still has 7. They might trade it for OG Anunoby. Portland might trade it down to 12 and get Kenrich Williams from OKC, Lou Dort from OKC, 2 good point of attack defenders. Lou Dort is great. He's just undersized. Kenrich Williams has better size. So Portland still has some work left to do. But after a trade deadline in which I thought they got back less value than they could have or than they should have, it's really nice to get a good value trade and still have some assets left over in this trade. So overall, happy, excited to see what's next. Joe Cronin, I was not happy with him at the trade deadline. Joe Cronin, I still think that criticism was valid, but you redeemed yourself. He redeemed himself. He won a trade, man. He won a trade. Let me thank a couple of member messages. Shout out Caleb Pendergraph, member for 8 months. He said, man, I'm worried for no reason. I'm continuously checking Woj. Worried for follow-up tweets saying we also sent Nas the deal or something like that. Nope, no need to worry. Portland doesn't have to send out any salary because they have the $20.8 million trade exception that they got for CJ McCollum, which absorbs Grant's salary, basically making it zero incoming dollars. So you don't have to match zero. You can match 0 with 0. So Jerami Grant fits into the TPE. The TPE is used. Thank you, Caleb Pendergraph, for the 8-month member message. Shout out Hyperprime, member for 8 months. He says, hella yeah, major dub for the Blazers. Appreciate you, Hyperprime, for being a channel member. Shout out Greg Martin, member for 18 months. He said Cronin finally did something good. I mean, this is his first good move, if I had to say so myself. Thank you, Greg. And then shout out to Chris S., member for 17 months. He said, am I the only one who thinks this is a balanced trade? Grant is expiring. The TPE is valuable for cap space. A late first, 2 seconds plus a swap seems fair. It is definitely fair value, and it works for Detroit, saving some money. Apparently they want to go after Jalen Brunson. Apparently Jalen Brunson's going to go back to the Mavericks, but you still get a first, which really isn't all that valuable. Watch, Milwaukee's going to suck in 2025, and that's going to be like the 7th pick anyway. They probably won't, so I'm not worried about that. But 2 seconds plus a swap, I mean, yeah, it kind of sucks going down from 36 to 46, but there still could be a very quality caliber player there. So it'll be interesting to see how the draft plays out tomorrow. I can't believe we're only about a day, 24 hours away. Thank you, Chris S., for the 17-month member message. Shout out to Romp 2.0. What's up, Romp? With the $5 dono. He says, congrats on the trade. Dare I say you fleeced them. Draft Jeremy Sohan, in my opinion, future defensive player of the year one day. It'll be interesting to see what Portland does with 7 tomorrow after this trade. But Jeremy Sohan would kind of be that point of attack defender. And he does have, I would say, all defensive team upside. I don't know if I'm going to go that bold, but he's probably, other than maybe Chet. You can make an argument for Chet, but you can make an argument for Jeremy Sohan being the best defender in this class as well. Thank you, Rump, for the $5 dono. Shout out to my guy Connor, one of our moderators, with the $20 dono. He says, I'm happier about not giving up 7 or Keon than I am about getting Grant, if I'm honest. Yeah, half of this trade is like relief, where I was worried that we were going to give up 7 or just give up bad value. So value-wise, I think it's solid, and I'm happy with it. I think it's good. But part of my happiness right now is the fact that we didn't do something dumb. So, Joe Cronin, we've seen him sell pieces. We haven't seen him go out and get one. I was worried that he was going to get strong-armed in negotiations, but he didn't. He didn't. It helps when you have a player that wants to go to Portland and is about to be a free agent, but gotta give Cronin the credit where it's due. Thank you, Connor, for the $20 dono. Shout out Carson Dunn, member for 2 months, says, let's go. Stoked for tomorrow night. So am I, Carson. What's up, man? And then Near 012, $5 dono, says, now I hope we swing for the fences with the 7th pick. Let's go. Chat, let me know. Does this change how you want to approach the 7th overall pick? Do you maybe want to swing for more upside now, or now do you just really want that point of attack defensive player, maybe a Jerami Sohan? Maybe you want to trade down more now because we'd end up keeping 12 and could get another asset. Do you want to trade it for OG? I mean, the Blazers with Dame, Ant, OG, Jerami Grant, Yusuf Nurkic. That's a pretty dang good lineup. Let me know what you want in chat. And I'll read it off here. 72% of you, out of 368 votes, 72% of you graded this trade as an A for Portland, 26% graded it as a B, 0% graded it as a C. Kind of wild, out of 373 votes. None of you graded it a C, and 2% graded it a D. We're all in agreement here. There's probably a couple Detroit fans that are unhappy with their return because Detroit fans were talking about the 7th overall pick, some of them, like it was already theirs. They were saying, ooh, we could get Keegan Murray and, Dyson Daniels, or Keegan Murray and Benedict Mathurin. No. That was always too much, man. Always too much. And yeah, I said so at the time, and now it's pretty obvious. Shout out to Play-by-Play. $10 dono, what's up, man? He says, happiness for once. We didn't get fleeced. If we can't get a deal for OG done, I think we should keep 7. Dyson or Sharp? Dyson or Sharp is who Play-by-Play wants. Yeah, I mean, Sharp, I don't know. I liked Sharp earlier in the offseason. Now I'm a little bit more hesitant, but I still think he has a lot of upside. I don't know. I don't really have a specific preference. If we trade 7 for OG, I'm cool with that. If we trade 7 for 12 and Lou Dort and like 2 future firsts, I mean, that's probably too much for OKC, but if we get back proper value in a trade down, then we take Sohan at 12, I'm happy with that. So there's a lot of possibilities with the 7th pick. The 7th pick now becomes more valuable in a trade because it was looked at as Joe Cronin and the Portland Trail Blazers. Well, Joe Cronin looked at like a guy who was potentially fleeceable. It's good for him to have this trade on his record as something where he got good value back, just to set the precedent that he's not a guy that you can just fleece in every trade after this deadline. I forgot the second part I was going to say. Anyway, thank you, Play-by-Play, for the $10 dono. Shout out old Jakob Haus, 20 Norwegian Crony dono. He says, so do we keep Joe Ingles now? I think we keep Joe Ingles, and even if he doesn't get healthy, he could be a salary trade chip at the deadline. That could be a good piece, I definitely want to bring Joe Ingles back. But yeah, it was good for Cronin to set the precedent. Ah, man, I had something good to say and I forgot. I was on a roll for about 15 minutes here and I lost my steam. Anyway, Eric, what would you grade this trade? Let us know in chat. I graded a B+, A-. Probably an A-. I don't know, but like our expectations were lowered. But no, this is good. I remember what I was going to say. This is good for Portland with the 7th overall pick because it was looked at that Portland needed to get something this offseason, something to help Dame, something to make Dame happy. And they just did that with Jerami Grant, didn't give up much value. Now Portland, other GMs aren't going to see Portland as in such a desperate situation. There's still a lot of work to do, but Portland got good value getting Jerami Grant. They don't need to trade the 7th pick for a guy to help them win now. They can draft somebody. And that's the thing. Drafting somebody with 7 can help you win basketball games right away. I mean, Damian Lillard averaged 19 points per game his rookie year. He was drafted with the 6th pick. I see a lot of people downplay how good the 7th overall draft selection could be. And that could be a player that really helps us. Dyson Daniels at 7 makes a lot of sense now, in my opinion. Really good point of attack defender, initiator, that sort of thing. So it's just good that Portland isn't going into draft night like an hour before their pick is up, saying, oh, we can't get Jerami Grant. We need to do something. Let's trade 7 for, something dumb. Let's trade 7 for 12 in, a second or something crazy, and then let's trade 12 for Jerami Grant. I'm just glad that Portland isn't in a position of desperation going into draft night. Do you think we still have a chance at Ayton? I don't think Ayton was ever the plan. I think we bring back Yusuf Nurkic. We don't really have the assets to go out and get DeAndre Ayton. Connor, thank you for the compliment on the hoodie. Eric rated it a B+. He said, let me read it off here. Hold on. He said, B+, looming extension for Grant and the finalization of the CJ trade are the only reasons it's not in A+. So Portland, back at the trade deadline, traded Larry Nance Jr. out just so they had this trade exception to get Jerami Grant. It was a bit creative, so props. I had asked for Portland GMs to be a little bit more creative. So basically throwing Larry Nance into the deal. Nance matched Satoransky and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Didi Louzada went into the Gary Trent Jr. the Rodney Hood TPE. And then, therefore, it was trading CJ McCollum for Josh Hart, which created the trade exception. No, Nance matched Josh Hart and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, is basically what the deal was. So it was basically CJ for Satoransky created the TPE. Just some nerdy CBA stuff. CJ's making $30.8 million. Satoransky was making 10. That's how you got a $20.8 million TPE. So we were questioning the decision to throw Larry Nance Jr. into that trade. We were questioning Portland's lack of assets with the trade exception. But, I mean, their lack of assets, they were still able to trade some of their lack of assets. A pretty mediocre first-round pick, like probably one of the lowest value first-round picks in the league with Milwaukee in 2025, and some seconds. Does anybody know the exact seconds? Because I haven't looked at it. I haven't really spent much time on Twitter. Shout out to all you who DM me about this and whatnot. So Woj said Denver gets a 2025 second-round pick back from Portland, but I think he meant Detroit. Yeah, that was a typo. So Portland got Detroit's 2025 second-round pick at the deadline, and they send that pick back to Detroit, which makes sense. And then Portland sends the most favorable 2026 second-round pick between Portland and New Orleans. That sucks that it's the most favorable, but whatever. I don't care. You can always buy seconds. Like seconds, you can always trade forward. You can always buy them. Like they're pretty easy to get, so I'm not too worried about the seconds. Portland moves back from 36 to 46. Kind of changes the calculation on what draft prospects could be there, but I bet there's a guy that's there that probably shouldn't be there, and that we're begging Portland to take. Yeah. Anyway, Josh Minot could be in play at 46 as an upside guy. David Roddy's a guy I kind of like at 46. Maybe a Jalen Williams from Arkansas. Maybe Isaiah Mobley could be a pick there. Jabari Walker could be a pick there. I'm just kind of going down my big board. I don't think Koloko's going to fall there. Koloko was kind of the dream center backup target with 36, but I don't think he falls to 46. Yannick Zosa is a guy, backup center. So that's the thing. Portland needs to address their backup center spot. They need to try and find another starting forward to pair next to Jerami Grant. Who knows who it is? It could be OG Anunoby. It could be Dyson Daniels. It could be Benedict Mathurin. If it's Benedict Mathurin and he's starting, I'm still worried about our defense next year. Because I don't know if I trust Benedict Mathurin to be a good point of attack defender right away. I trust Dyson Daniels more. I trust Jeremy Sohan more. If it's Shaden Sharp, then, hopefully in free agency we can use the mid-level exception to get a starting three. But here's the thing with free agency. That kind of sucks this year. The forward crop in free agency is not quality. And finally, Portland has a full mid-level exception instead of just the taxpayer mid-level exception. Instead of having $6 million to spend, they have 10. but the forward crop is not that good. Chat, let me know if there's any free agent forwards that you guys know of that you guys would want to go after. I can maybe talk about a couple of them here. Cow Neely says, I really need someone to explain to me how we would get OG and why Toronto would get rid of him, because you keep bringing him up like it's realistic. I don't think it's impossible. There's some rumors that OG's unhappy. I mean, the 7th pick is a really good value back for OG Anunoby. Like I've said, I think I said recently on air that I don't think Anunoby's super realistic, but I mean, if it's possible, you absolutely have to consider it. And if it's possible, like, especially now that we got Jerami Grant, you really got to consider it. Because OG Anunoby is still young enough to fit a futuristic timeline with Ant. Grant still, he's kind of in his prime. He's, 28 years old? So, if it's available, you have to consider it. He might not be available. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a source in the right place, and even the people that do have sources in the right place probably still don't know. Miles Bridges is a name tossed out there. I mean, that'd have to be a sign and trade. He's not a great point of attack defender. That's the thing with Portland now, is I think you need to try and get a starting small forward that's a good on-ball defender, that you can throw up against the star wings in the league, that you can throw up against Luka Doncic, that you can throw up against Devin Booker, that you can throw up against LeBron James. Jerami Grant is, like, as a secondary guy to throw up against them, like, he has size and is decently agile. So I wouldn't say it's terrible, but I mean, if you listen to Basketball Index, he grades out is like an F grade on-ball defender. I think that's probably a little bit of noise, and that he will be a little bit, I think he's a little bit better on the ball than that, but I still think Jerami Grant's a below average on-ball defender. Off the ball, like, I kind of compare him to Rocco defensively. He's not the same, but he kind of has some of the same traits. Robert Covington was looked at as just a phenomenal defender all around when he got to Portland, and then he got to Portland, and it's like, oh wait, he can't guard star perimeter players. He's really good off the ball, gets steals, blocks shots, can play some small ball 5 as a rim protector, but you can't put him up against stars. He gets burnt. And kind of view Jerami Grant in the same way, so if you can go out and get a good on-ball defender at the 3, it makes the Jerami Grant trade even better, because you don't have to task Jerami Grant with doing that. So that's kind of the key. That's kind of the next move for Portland, is to figure out who their starting 3 is. Some people say Nasir Little. I just don't think you can trust him yet. You can't trust him to stay healthy. You can't trust him to consistently knock down shots. You can't trust him to consistently defend. Nasir Little's kind of the opposite. He really struggled off the ball last year. Was better on the ball. So defensively, he's a good fit next to Jerami Grant. It's just he hasn't proven it consistently enough. So I don't know if I wouldn't necessarily settle for him being the starting 3. Him off the bench as the backup 3, I love. You have Josh Hart, good defensive player, good on-ball defender, off the bench as the 3rd guard, makes perfect sense behind Damon Ant. And then you have Nasir Little, a good on-ball defender, athletic, has some offensive upside as the backup 3. And then, you got Watford. Joe Ingles could come back. He's going to be hurt for a bit, but you still have the MLE. I mean, the bench should be pretty good next year. It's just the key is finding that good on-ball defender. Because offensively, here's the thing, if OG Anunoby's available, offensively, a Dame, Ant, OG, Grant, Nurkic starting 5 is probably a top 5 offense in the league. We've seen Dame and CJ be top 5 offenses in the league with less around them, with Al-Farouq Aminu and Mo Harkless. So offensively, I have no worries there, especially because you have Josh Hart off the bench, perfect 3rd guard. Defensively is obviously the question mark, as Portland has struggled mightily defensively the past 3 years or so, been pretty much a bottom 5 defense. The question is Dame and this is the question. How good defensively is Dame, Ant, OG, Grant, and Nurkic? Is that an average defense? Because if it's an average defense, then maybe that team can contend. Like, that's the bar. That team is that team would be so electric offensively that I think you just have to be an average defense. So how can Portland get to be in an average defense? I think Dame being healthier gives me some hope that maybe he can be an average defender. He was a little bit better defensively earlier on in his career, and hopefully he takes that challenge head on. Anthony Simons is really good getting through screens and decently quick laterally. He just like has some technique things that he really needs to work on. He needs to still get a little bit stronger. He opens up too much on drives, doesn't play physical enough on drivers. But I think Ant and Dame can be average defenders at their position. Ant will always be behind the ball as he's a little undersized at the two, but I think that I have a little bit more hope for a healthy Dame and Ant than I did for a Dame that was like injured for 6 years and CJ McCollum. So you still just got to try and give them the best defensive forwards possible. One of them is going to be Jerami Grant. And then, we'll see who the other one is. That's the next thing to figure out. Shout out to Rahul 27 $7 Canadian dollar dono. He says this draft is not a stack compared to last year. After the 4th pick, there are some question marks with other prospects. Raps won't trade OG. I don't necessarily agree a whole lot with that. I think you have a lot of high floor players in this draft class. As far as star potential, probably a little bit low on that. But that's the thing. Every draft is different. And people will say like, oh, this draft isn't as good as last year's draft. Well, it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for somebody to come in and just help right away and probably just end up being a really good role player, you have a lot of that in this draft class. I mean, all the way down to like EJ Liddell, all the way down to Andrew Nemhard, Agbaji, Wendell Moore Jr., Mark Williams, Jake LaRavia, Beauchamp is a really good defensive player, Jalen Williams. Like, you got a lot of guys that I think are high floor guys. Those guys, I don't think any of those guys will go in the lottery. But I think all of them could help a solid team win games right away. I think this is a draft class with a bunch of high floor guys with maybe lower ceilings, and therefore, because you don't see the vast potential, people think it's not as good of a draft class or not as stacked. But if you're just looking for somebody to come in and be a solid, good role player, kind of a safer bet without as much upside, this is the draft class for that. And here's the thing. Some of these guys probably have sneakier upside than people realize too. Like, I bet you one of the guys I named might become a fringe all-star. I think I would say the odds on that are 50-50. Shout out to Caleb Pendergraph, $2 dono, says, thought on targeting PJ Tucker with the MLE. I don't know, man. Like, he's good defensively, but I don't trust PJ Tucker at this age to, like, lock up guys on the ball consistently. I would be pretty disappointed if that was, like, who we're going to bring in. I like Grant more at the 4 than the 3. PJ Tucker, I think, is pretty much just a 4. Like, you just, I don't know. I wouldn't trust PJ Tucker or Jerami Grant guarding guards. I wouldn't trust either of them throwing them up against a star-level wing creator. So, I'm not super fond of PJ Tucker. Can we get Batum? Batum would be perfect, but I think... Also, please don't spam chat. All right? I honestly, now I don't want to answer your question because you spam chat. Please don't spam chat. We don't do spam here. But it's a good question. Can we get Batum since he declined his player option? He probably has a handshake agreement to go back to the Clippers. They have early bird rights on him. You're all good. You're all good. Just letting you know. No spam. The Clippers have early bird rights on him, so they can re-sign him for 105% of the average contract, so like $11 million, which is more than the MLE, and I think they do that. I would love to bring back Batum. He would make a lot of sense as our starting 3, and he's been really good on the ball as a defender. So I just don't think he's available. I love when people like join the stream 30 minutes in. It's obvious we've been talking about this trade the entire stream. People join the trade like, hey, just joined. What are your thoughts? Been giving my thoughts for 30 minutes, man. Lots of thoughts. Lots and lots and lots of thoughts. So, definitely don't don't be afraid to scrub back in the stream and watch from the beginning or whatever, but or watch the beginning after this. I don't know. Shout out Eugene David, $5 donut, says, just happy we didn't give 7th pick away. So am I, man. So am I. It's fun to look forward to the draft. Right now the rumor is Shaden Sharp. We will see. I'm really curious to see what Portland does next, man. I'm really, really curious. And no, I'm not as scared. Now I'm actually a little bit more excited. I'm very happy with this. Anyway, okay. I haven't talked about this guy. I don't want John Collins right now. Basically, from the get-go, for me, it was either Jerami Grant or John Collins, not both. Because they both are similar types of defenders. Neither one of them are good on-ball defenders. John Collins is a poor on-ball defender. He's a good rim protector, solid team defender, solid off the ball, much like Jerami Grant. Not good on the ball. If you bring in John Collins to pair with Jerami Grant, who are you gonna defend the star perimeter players of the league with? A lot of people say you throw Jerami Grant on them, but he's not that good of an on-ball defender. People think he's a better on-ball defender than he is. You're not gonna throw John Collins up against Luka or Devin Booker. So, who are you throwing up against them? Like, that's the thing. If you go out and get John Collins, I'm excited. I'm excited for just having, like, 2 forwards that are big names that can do some things offensively. Like, it should be a pretty dang fun team. So I'd be excited for that. You know, as a content creator covering the team, it would be cool just to have an exciting team. Because since I started this channel, we've struggled. I started this channel right after the Western Conference Finals. But, I mean, that's the thing is people say, oh, Jerami Grant in Detroit playing for a tanking team probably wasn't a good on-ball defender, but analytically, and this far back I can only speak analytically. Analytically, doesn't grade out as a good on-ball defender in Denver either. He was okay in OKC for a year, and then I think he was pretty bad another year. So it's not just Detroit. And that's based off basketball index. I went back through his player profile. That's like the best analytical website right now. So, I mean, if it's 7 for John Collins and 16, I guess. If you have a starting lineup of Dame, Ant, Grant, Collins, and Nurkic, that's probably 5 below average perimeter defenders. I don't know if you can get away with that. I mean, Boston made the finals, won 2 games in the finals because they defended like crazy. The Warriors won a championship because they have an offensive star, good offensive system, good offensive role players, but they also defend really, really well. So I think you have to get it done on both sides of the court. If John Collins is the next move, I question whether that's... I question that. Now I just wish we had a top pick. You know, a Jabari Smith, who's a really good perimeter defender and sniper. Him being the on-ball defender would have been fun. Or you could just absolutely go all in on rim protection like the Cleveland Cavaliers if you wanted Chet Holmgren at the 4 and Nurkic at the 5 and Grant at the 3. And then it's like, yeah, we don't have anybody to throw up against stars, but they're going up against like one of the best rim protecting small forwards and power forwards in the league. So you'd have, or you could go Paulo and just go all in on the offense. Like, I just wish we were sitting here with the top pick, but happy we still have 7. So people bring up you don't want to talk Ant trades because you want good on-ball defenders. Ant and Dame are going to make on-ball defending damn near impossible. That's absolutely not the case. Portland had a 9th-ranked defense with Dame and CJ. And it was because they had Mo Harkless and Al-Farouq Aminu. And those guys were good enough defensively that even though Enes Kanter was starting with Dame and CJ, Portland's made the Western Conference Finals. because you had two forwards that were really freaking good defensively, that were taken for granted, to be quite honest. Ant can be a better defensive player than CJ. Dame, a healthy Dame, should be a better defensive player. Fingers crossed. Why? Just get two good defensive forwards. Like, Jerami Grant's a good off-ball team defender. Get a good on-ball defender, and you're sitting there with probably a good enough defense. You need star-level scorers. Like, Boston had a really good defense. They lost the NBA Finals because Jason Tatum got shut down, and then Marcus Smart isn't a true point guard, and he couldn't be trusted, and he was erratic. Jaylen Brown forgot how to dribble a basketball, and he had a couple good moments, but he was very erratic. And they had nobody that could score the ball. They had nobody that could create. You need star offensive players too. If you have Dame and Ant, you're covered. You're covered. Because that's the thing. You don't want to go too much the other way where you trade Ant for a good on-ball defender and, oh, look, we have a borderline top 10 defense. Oh, but our offense is too reliant on Dame. I think the recipe is pretty simple. You got to get the defense good enough. Offensively, we are absolutely set. Assuming Ant continues to develop. Now, if you're talking about Ant for Giannis, absolutely I'd do it. Ant for OG, though? I mean, Ant's already a better offensive player than OG Anunoby. And he's also a free agent, so it's we can't just trade him anywhere. He gets to decide where he wants to go. Therefore, we're not going to get back as much for him. Just like we didn't have to give up as much as people were worried about because Jerami Grant wanted to come here and as a free agent in a year. Defend the Row says this convo selling me harder on Dyson. Yeah, I like Dyson as an on-ball defender and playmaker. Bach1 says, can we somehow trade Bledsoe's contract's awful? If we waive him before free agency, he's $3.9 million of dead money. So we can choose to do that. He was supposedly supposed to be a very valuable asset with his $19 million expiring contract, but I don't think he is. The value isn't in Eric Bledsoe. The value is in whatever assets you attach to him in order to bring in a bunch of salary. That's the thing. If the Blazers want OG Anunoby, they have to trade out Eric Bledsoe. If they don't have Eric Bledsoe, they pretty much can't get OG Anunoby unless they give up Josh Hart. At that point, that's just a no-go for me. Or you do 7 and Bledsoe for 16 and John Collins, then 16 and Hart for OG. That has no chance of happening, but imagine that. John Collins is your sixth man. Edwin doesn't like that I compared the Celtics crumbling to Dame and Ant. I just read Eric's comment too. I'll read that out after. I'm not comparing the Celtics to Dame and Ant. I'm saying the Celtics show that you need creators in the NBA Finals. Ant offensively, the way Brown looked in the playoffs, I think the Celtics would have rather had Ant. Well, the way Brown looked in the finals, he had good playoff moments, but in the finals, Brown was bad. Bad. That's the thing. Brown's like a guy that plays off guys a bit, and he can do some stuff with the ball for sure. He can attack, he can slash, but his ball handling is suspect. And in the finals, when you're playing up against the most physical defenses, the most locked-in, keyed-in defenses that will pressure you on the perimeter more than you've been pressured before, if your ball handling isn't good enough, you're not going to be able to do much. You're going to be a problem offensively, no matter how good you were before that, playing against less physical defenses. That's what happened with Jaylen Brown. Anthony Simon's a better ball handler. He's quicker. You can't, he needs to get a little bit stronger, so maybe he might have struggled, but that's the thing. Jaylen Brown is a better player during the regular season, but some guys shine in the playoffs. Some guys don't. I think Ant's going to be that guy that shines in the playoffs. Shout out to Eric for this nugget of information. He says, Tori, this went under the radar because of our stupid media, but Bledsoe agreed to push back his non-guaranteed date to July 10th. That's awesome. No reason for Bledsoe not to, because that makes it maybe a little bit more likely he gets traded. And if Bledsoe gets traded, next year becomes fully guaranteed for him at like $19.4 million. A lot of teams think they can trade, or a lot of teams' fan bases think they can trade for Eric Bledsoe and then waive him, and he's only $3.9 million of dead money. That's not the case. If we trade Eric Bledsoe, next year becomes fully guaranteed for him. So it makes sense that Bledsoe would push back his the deadline date to waive him and his non-guaranteed contract, because he's hoping he gets traded, so that gets guaranteed, so he gets paid. That's good news. Yep. Eric with more inside information. By the way, Eric's the one who had this scoop over a month ago. That Jerami Grant to Portland was basically a done deal. Let me actually see when that stream was. It was on our second channel. Blazers Uprise Live. Link at the top of the description box below. We stream there twice a week during the offseason, Mondays and Thursdays at 9:30 p.m. Pacific time. It was 2 months ago. April 18th. Wow. It was 2 months ago. It was not April 2nd, Eric. I'm looking at the stream. It was the day we did that stream. The stream that was titled Report Trailblazers First Offseason Move Confirmed? Question mark? Yup. Yep. Yeah, so Eric had the scoop before anyone. Before at least anyone in Blazers media. He said Grant wanted to go to Portland. His free agency was going to potentially be a benefit if Cronin played his cards right, and therefore we shouldn't have to give up more than the Milwaukee first. And Joey says we all knew Grant was going to be a Blazer. I mean, this was 2 months ago. Nobody was saying that Grant was for sure going to be a Blazer. Nobody was saying that Grant wanted to come to Portland. Like, that's the thing. A bunch of other teams could trade for him. Eric was saying it was basically a done deal 2 months ago. So, that's pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool. You know, we don't really have many sources or anything, but that's what we told you guys. Like, we're not going to sit up here and pretend that we know, like, make up stuff that we're hearing or say, well, we know his master plan and you guys are just going to find out later. Nah, like, if we hear something that we can share, we'll share it. Otherwise, we'll just keep it to ourselves, and we're never going to make stuff up. People still doubt us because me and Eric are just YouTubers. We don't come from mainstream media. We don't come from the radio. We don't come from television, yada, yada, yada. So people doubt that we might know things, or Eric might know things. That's why I'm pretty dang happy about this trade, too, is because Eric called it. Shout out Mills Woj, $5 dono. He says, Eric, really a legend. I remember the stream when he called this and broke that tip. Yep. I mean, if you guys want, I don't want you to click off this stream, but the link in chat is that stream. Shout out Gracious Investigates, $5 dono. He says, as I was saying earlier, isn't it possible that the deal was done during the CJ trade and regardless of what happened to that pick? Why didn't they just trade for Jerami Grant at the deadline then? I don't necessarily think that was the case. I think Detroit just wanted to be patient and see how it played out. Eric said, obvious prediction that I shouldn't be given credit for, but I had details no one else had. Yep. Anyway, thank you, Gray, for the $5 dono. Appreciate you, man. Anyway, we'll be live later tonight with a draft preview, and then we will have a draft live stream tomorrow. So even if you're not a Blazer fan, come back tomorrow. About this time, we'll be live with the draft stream. I have unique graphics for that. The graphics are going to look really good, in my opinion. I've been grinding that. I was up all night watching film on prospects, grinding out some draft graphics. I go try hard with the draft, with the stream, with me trying to know literally every potential prospect that could be picked. Me and Eric really try hard to provide the best coverage possible. So hopefully you guys are able to come back tomorrow. Tyler Cornwall says Christian Wood for pick 26, Grant for probably something similar. It seems like the trade market for forwards is pretty good for buyers right now. I don't know if that's the case, because it's like Grant wants to come to Portland, is about to be a free agent. His extension is going to worry me a little bit. I don't want to give him a max, man. And then Christian Wood has, like, every team is given up on him for nothing, basically. Like, every team that's had him just doesn't want to keep him. So Christian Wood's kind of a unique case there, and then Grant's a unique case, wanting to come to Portland and going to be a free agent in a year. So I don't think that necessarily sets the price super low for OG Anunoby if he's available, or John Collins, because those guys are both under contract for multiple years. Somebody said live stream during draft, ? Yes, that's what I was just talking about. We'll be live. I just lowered my chair. We'll be live streaming during the draft. Every pick, all 58 picks, not 60 this year, all 58 picks. There's a comment I wanted to read, but I lost it. When does the stream start tomorrow? I think the draft starts at 5, so the stream will probably start at 4. We'll like go over our big boards and that sort of thing, go over any of the rumors. So we'll start an hour before the draft starts, is the plan right now. Loney, I do feel better about the trade deadline now. I mean, just because we recoup a little bit of value, I think. It's still, I mean, we basically traded CJ McCollum, Norman Powell, Robert Covington, and Larry Nance Jr. for Josh Hart and Jerami Grant. Like, that's still not a W. It's not as bad as Josh Hart in the Milwaukee 2025 first, though. So, how long is the draft? Does it go by quick? Because I get off at 5. It'll be like a 4 or 5 hour stream, I think is what it usually is. You can go back in the channel, and actually I'll go back. I'll just search it on YouTube. Blazers Uprise Draft Stream. In 2021, it was 6 hours. In 2020, it was 4.5 hours. In 2019, it was 5.5 hours. That was the first live stream I've ever done, was the 2019 draft stream with Eric. Damani was in there. I just saw Damani in chat. What's up, Damani? Oh, I forgot Keon. Yeah, you got Keon Johnson, too. So, CJ, Rocco, Norman Nance for Hart, Grant, Keon Johnson, Justice Winslow, Eric Bledsoe. Yeah, solid. I mean, needed some change. I like Josh Hart a lot, so. Anyway, I'll take questions for another 5 or 10 minutes. Somebody asked about the mailbag. I will probably still do the mailbag. I wanted to do a mock draft, though. I just keep putting off the mailbag. I keep ending up like in a rabbit hole watching prospect film, and then I gotta do the graphics too. If I don't do the mailbag, I'll answer your questions. I'll just reply to them in the community tab. Shot Brian Tadovich, $5 dono, says, Tori, I just got here. What happened? We traded for Jerami Grant. That's what happened, man. Thank you, Brian, for the $5 dono. Taylor says, does this change your opinion about Cronin at all? I think it gives me more faith in him. Before, I thought he was a lost cause. I mean, Yeah, I don't know. Like, I forgive that. I don't know if I even want to say that. I still think he botched the deadline. But I now know that he's capable of negotiating properly. Grant wanted to come here. He's going to be a free agent. Hopefully we don't pay him too much. I'm a little bit worried about that. But overall, I am... I'm happier with him. I mean, we'll see what he does going forward. I'm curious to see what his follow-up move is. Defend the Rose says what plays we pick tomorrow will guarantee a hat toss. If we draft... if we draft Jalen Duren... even then, I wouldn't be that mad. Even if we drafted... I'm not super high on Keegan Murray, but if we drafted him, I wouldn't be that mad. I don't know. I won't be mad with any realistic pick, to be honest, at 7. There's guys I definitely want a lot more, but... Yeah, Eric said Grant pretty much forced this. It's still a major W for Cronin, but doesn't prove anything yet. Good first step towards fixing things. Yep, that's what I wanted to say. I was trying to find the way to say it. But yeah. Let's see how he does when he doesn't have a ton of leverage or no leverage, apparently. Blevins says John Butler is 7 is good with you, then I will chuck my hat if it's John Butler is 7. I will throw my hat through my webcam, through your computer or phone or TV screen. Whatever you're watching on. And I'll hit you, and it will come through your screen and hit you in the face if we draft John Butler at 7. Adam Smith's DM me on Twitter. I got you. Thoughts on Nikola Jovic? We will have a draft preview later tonight. We'll talk more about this trade, but we'll have a draft preview later tonight over... should we do it on the main channel? I'll probably do it on the main channel. Eric says, I like Keegan, but he makes a lot less sense now. Yeah, I do agree with that. Dyson Daniels, I like just as that on-ball defender that can play the 3 and play make. Brian Tadovich said, with the $2 dono, says, Grant Mathurin, good fit? I think there's some questions with Mathurin's defense. He could be good. He has some really good flashes, but it's not consistent. So, Mathurin at 7, I don't know if you start him right away. And if you do, I'm kind of worried about him, at least for the first couple years, being able to be like a good on-ball defender. But he's an upside play, so I'm cool with that. Like, could be a star. Could be a really good on-ball defender, too. So, if they roll with that, I'm cool with that. Jackson, you're funny, man. Yeah, we'll get your guys' thoughts on who you want at 7 later tonight. We'll stream right here on the main channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. And it'll be a draft preview, and then we'll draft stream tomorrow. I'll put out a mock draft. I still need to do that. And then mailbag. I don't know. I was going to wake... I was taking a nap when this trade happened. I was going to wake up and do it. Would have been out by now. But too bad we traded for Jerami Grant and didn't get fleeced. Dang it. Shout out Dro. $2 dono with the Drono. Says, JG, baby, might have to get a jersey. Be positive. I've been positive this whole stream. Thank you for the $2 dono. Eric said, Tori say Drono. I literally said probably said Drono right when you typed that. That's funny. I got you. Yeah, so we'll see what's next. Let me make sure I didn't miss any donos. We'll see what's next. We'll go through draft preview later tonight. That should be fun. Eric will be here. You guys can get his thoughts on the Jerami Grant trade live on air. Abdullah has an idea trading 7 down for 13 and 15 to Charlotte. And taking Usman, Jang, Tara Eason. That would be intriguing. I mean, Jang is I think he's a good on-ball defender. I don't know if he'd be ready to play right away, but he played phenomenal the second half of the season in the NBL. If he can be more that player, not the guy that played at the beginning of the season, maybe he could be a guy that could play right away. That's the thing. If they trade down and take like, Usman Jang, or if they take Shaden Sharp, or it's some project like boom or bust type guy, then you're probably just saying, okay, we're starting Nasir Little at the 3 because I don't think there's anybody in free agency that would necessarily be better. And then if Nasir Little can become a lockdown guy and break out next year, then who knows what the limit is. 9:30 Pacific time for tonight's show. That is correct. 4 p.m. Pacific time for the draft stream tomorrow. That is also correct. Yeah, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a like. It helps us out. I'll take a couple more questions, then sign off. Taking Jang at 7 is too high, and I'm on the Jang gang, says Sam. I have Jang right now 9th on my big board. 7 would be a little bit of a reach, but I mean, you're taking a guy with a really high upside, and if you think he can fulfill it, I could absolutely understand taking him at 7. Veeks, why do you say that, man? Why do you think Jang sucks? Trevin's on the Sohan train. Chris says he'll cry, I don't know, out of sorrow or happiness if we take Jang. Miko says, what do you think about Nurk and the 7th for Miles Turner? Nurkic is a free agent, so we can't do anything with him until free agency. But then he also decides where he goes, so he'd have to decide on his own to want to go to Indiana. And then we'd have to sign and trade him for Miles Turner, but at that point we've already used 7. So don't really see how that's feasible. And also that's terrible. I would not do Nurk at 7 for Miles Turner. Miles Turner is not that good. He's good, but he's not that good. People overrate Miles Turner. Trade for OG or draft Dyson if the decision were on you. I'll do a chat poll for that, all right? We'll end off with that chat poll. OG, trade for OG, or draft, I'll just say draft with number 7. Or, I'll word it better. Do you want to trade number 7 for OG? Alright. Sorry about the typing if nobody likes ASMR. Anyway. There's your chat poll chat. Curious to see what you guys vote now after this trade. Tyler Cornwall says Nurk just tweeted that picture of him, Grant, and Josh Hart with the caption of a puzzle piece. Yeah, that picture of Josh Hart, Grant, and Nurkic. That's an interesting picture, man. It was like them smiling at each other, like covering their mouths with their hands, like pretty foreshadowing now, huh? And Nurkic is coming back. Like I could entertain Nurkic side and trade possibilities, but it's like you can't just decide to trade Nurkic anywhere. He gets to decide where he goes. And I'm pretty sure we already have a handshake agreement to bring him back. That's why we sat him out the last 2 years when he was probably healthy in a contract year when he was about to become a free agent. And if Nurkic is tweeting out that, like, I would be shocked if Nurkic is not back next year. %76% of you have voted yes. Honestly, my dream trade would be like 7 in Keon. And we'd have to trade Bledsoe somewhere to match. But 7 for John Collins in 16, but then you flip John Collins for OG Anunoby. John Collins is more of a center. than OG Anunoby or Pascal Siakam, Scotty Barnes. Like, he's become a solid rim protector. I think John Collins can be a center and he can shoot. Like, I honestly think he's probably as good of a center as he is a power forward. And you have good perimeter defenders around them. Maybe Toronto wants John Collins for OG Anunoby. But then it becomes a situation, well, does Atlanta want OG Anunoby or 7? Because if they can trade John Collins for OG Anunoby, they probably do that. But if they really want 7, then maybe it's something like that where Portland can end up with OG in 16. That's not really realistic, but Matt Turley says, still send 7 for Collins and play Grant at the 3 if you can't get OG. I'm not on board with that because you'd have 5 below-average perimeter defenders in the starting lineup. Both Grant and Collins aren't good perimeter defenders. They are good team defenders, good off-ball defenders, but they're much more like Rocco than they are like a Mo Harkless or Al-Farouq Aminu type defender. And I think you need at least one good on-ball defender in the starting lineup. If you have good team defenders behind them, then you can be a solid defense. So I don't like Collins' fit next to Grant. If it was Collins and OG, sure. Grant and OG, sure. Because OG's a good on-ball defender. Collins and Grant? And I don't want that. I would want DeAndre Hunter if we can't get OG, but I don't think he's available. He's reportedly untouchable. But yeah, I like Grant more at the 4 anyways, so the 3 is what's next. It's going to be interesting to see how they fill the other forward spot. Looks like we have 4 starters confirmed next year. I mean, Nurkic is a free agent, but I expect him back, and we'll see what we do at the small forward spot. If we get OG Anunoby, that's... I don't know how good that team is, but it's pretty dang good. It might be the best team Dame's ever had around him. So, I mean, if Dame, CJ, Harkless, Aminu, and Cantor can make the Western Conference Finals, then I feel like Dame, Simons, OG, Grant, and Nurkic could make a run. Anyway, we'll talk more about this later tonight with the draft preview stream. Hopefully you're able to catch this. Right now we're at 169 likes. Let's see if we can get that to 200. Help me out. Help us out. We appreciate it. We appreciate everybody who donos too and supports the channel. It means a lot to us. And yeah, we'll be live again later tonight, live again tomorrow, right here on the main channel for both those streams. 9:30 p.m. Pacific time tonight, 4 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow for the draft. Subscribe so you don't miss it. And I'll have a mock draft coming up soon. Final mock draft video. And then the draft is here. I mean, the off season's already started. We're already underway. XC Depp says, noted YouTuber and Detroit Pistons fan Crispy Flakes is pissed. I'm going to have to watch that after this. That's going to be entertaining. So, anyway, thank you to everybody for supporting this channel, being a part of this community. It's nice to take a W today. It's nice to, for the first time in a while, we can say it's a great day to be a Blazer. We haven't had the best luck. Finally, something good happens. So, very happy. And catch you tonight. Catch you tomorrow. Until whenever I catch you next. Hope everything's good. Mock draft will probably drop around 7:30ish, 8, something like that. Anyway, I'll catch y'all later. Have a good rest of your day. Until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.